Hey, people. I was telling you that last move that in the book of Isaiah 50, he's talking about the hand of indigo, and he calls it the stink fish. It means, to call him out, to point him out. He's the one. And he calls it the finger in your ass, in the ass digit. And I told you he's also talks about this sign here. And it means one thing when you turn it sideways, and it means another when you turn it up. And I haven't read it yet, but I heard from a good source this here book. This guy's hip to Greek, Hebrew, and Latin. And he says if we could find it in Isaiah 58. And it's described here, the putting forth of the middle finger, the rest drawn into a fist on each side, which is called the uppit in the Greek. That looks like a I-A, which is a U, and a P-T, I believe. The uppit by the Greeks, vulgarly a higa. In the ancient tongue, pugner. And that's a fig in Greek, give them the fig, P-Y-G. It is a natural expression of scorn and contempt. This gesture is called catapygon by the Athenians. Kata meaning under, and a pigon, under a figon, and a yod isit. I read it as the hand in the Hebrew. The hand is it, E-S-T. The hand is it, assigned us, and a scordum hupronus, absconitatum, and would infamum concuterit, and convicium facerit, which is well noted by the elegant epigramist. Epigramy, grammar, and a pig is upon the grammar. The meaning of the word ist, somebody who does that work, a pigramist. A ride to multum, why it sextal signdum. A dixerit, the word for, and God said, to, words from the hand. A dixerit and a digit, a finger, forage at a medium, the middle digit. So this is all old Latin, and the new Latin's changed because there's things they didn't want us to know. But all in all, what it says is it means that fuck you in the ass is what it means. But when you turn it on the sideways, that's what it was talking about here in Isaiah. This pointing out with the finger in a way of mockery. That the scoffing motion this finger moves in apprehension of what we intend may plainly be gathered out in the prophecy of the prophet Isaiah, where he said, if thou taketh away from the midst of the yoke, and putting forth of the finger, an evil speaking, which by the most of expositors is conceived to be meant of this very gesture, although divines have variously descanted upon the place. Divines, the church leader says, no, he didn't mean in the ass. In this sense also that of the wise man may be understood, the wicked man speaketh with his finger, that is, his finger by gestures and signs speaks scoffs, as Dr. German in his paraphitical comment upon the place. And Lampridius speaking of the notorious effeminacy and luxurious imprudence of that Scottish emperor Heliogabalus, among other expressions of his corrupted mind, reports him to have used this. Thus Caligula was wont to flout and frump, and Cassius Cherry, tribune of the Praetorian cohort, in most opprobrious, expressing scorn or criticism, the terms as wanton and effeminate, And so when you turn that middle finger sideways and point at somebody, doesn't mean fuck you in the ass anymore. It means that person wouldn't mind it. And when came upon him for a watchword to give him Priapus or Venus. Another while, if upon occasion he rendered thanks, to reach out unto his hand, not only fashioned, but wagging also after obscene and filthy manner. And Q Cassins, a right and valiant man, and one that distasted the corrupted manners of those times, took this reproach of effeminacies so ill at Caligula's hand that he bore him a particular grudge for this very cause, and was the man conspiring with Cornelius Sabinus, his fellow tribune, deprived him of life and empire. Thus Diogenes, when certain strangers in a great assembly were very inquisitive to know which one was Demosthenes, Diogenes, in derision, putting forth his finger instead of the index, pointing him out, and showed him unto them. So if you were pointing out somebody who would like it in the ass, you would use your middle finger, covertly thereby noting the imprudent nature and effeminacy of the man. And it may be the envy and despite of Joseph's brethren towards him showed itself in the contumelious gesture of this finger, which pointed out unto him their contempt for him when he was far off, and making towards them when they said unto another, Behold, this dreamer cometh. So it's saying the brothers of Joseph said he was effeminate and liked it in the ass. But it says, this is what it was talk about in Isaiah 58, when he saith, If thou take away from the midst of the yoke, and putting forth of the finger, and evil speaking, which by the most expositors is conceived to be meant of this very gesture. So I don't know if they're reading the Greek, the Latin, or the Hebrew when they caught this, but we'll go look and see. But here in the Greek, they interpret this as yell out in strength, and should not spare, as a trumpet raise up high your voice, and announce to my people their sins, and to the house of Jacob their lawless deeds. So this is the house of Jacob this goes on in. Me day by day they seek, and to know my ways they desire. As a people righteousness executing, and judgment of their God not abandoning, they ask me now judgment for a just, and to approach to God they desire, saying, Why is it that we fasted, and you did not look? Why did we humble our souls, and you did not know? For in the days of your fast you find the things of your wants, and all the ones under your hands you goad. For litigations and fights you fast, and you beat with your fist the humble. Why to me do you fast as you do today, to be heard in a cry? Is it for your voice? Not this fast I did choose, nor a day to humble for man his soul, nor even should you bend as a hook your neck, nor sackcloth and ashes should you spread under you, nor thus shall you call fast and acceptable. Not such I did choose a fast, says the Lord, but untie every bond of injustice, part perverseness violent of exchanges, send out the ones having been devastated by a free release, and every writ unjust tear apart. Break with ones hungering your bread, and pour the homeless bring into your house. If you behold one naked, clothe him, and concerning the members of your family of your seed, you shall not disdain them. Then shall be torn through the morning your light, and the things of your cures quickly shall arise, and shall go before in front of you your righteousness, and the glory of God shall screen you. Then shall yell, and the Lord shall hearken to you. Yet while you are speaking, he shall say, Behold, I am at hand. If you remove from yourself conspiracy and stretching forth of the hands, the share, and discourse grumbling, and should give to one's hungering the bread from your soul, and the soul being humble should fill up, then shall arise in the darkness your light, and your darkness shall be as midday, and will be your God with you always, and you shall be filled up just as desire your soul, and your bones shall be fattened, and will be as gardens saturated, and as a spring which failed not water. And shall be built to you the desolate place everlasting, and will be foundations your everlasting in generations of generations. And you shall be called a builder of barriers, and the stones, the ones between your rows, shall cease, if you should turn your foot from the Sabbaths, so as to not do your wants on the day holy, and shall call the Sabbath delightful, holy to your God, if you shall not lift your foot to work, nor shall you speak a word in anger from out of your mouth. Then you shall be relying upon the Lord, and he will bring upon you the good things, land, and he will feed you the inheritance of Jacob, your father, for the mouth of the Lord spoke these things. So I didn't see it say anything about the yoke in here. If we look at the Latin and let the Google translate it, looks about the same thing. My people, their transgressions, and the house of Jacob, their sins. For they seek day by day, and delight to know my ways. And behold, you fast for strife and contention, and you strike with the fist wickedly. Do not fast as you have done this day, that your cry may be heard on high. And is this fast that I have chosen to afflict a man's soul for a day? It is to bow down his head like a circle. That's probably where it's talking about the yoke in the Hebrew. And to spread sackcloth and ashes. Will you call that a fast, and a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this fast that I have chosen loose the bounds of wickedness? So that's probably what they're talking about in 9 here. And in the Latin, it looks more like to whence invocative is, and Dominus exaudit, and to call upon, and the Lord is audit his hearers, and clamor is, and dicit, and said, and sc, this is what they say is behold, and behold, is in the hand, and behold had some, a sea of stuler is the medio, the middle, and to a cantum, that's where they're getting the yoke from, the chain, and desire is extender, a digit, the finger, and a looky would none protest. And they'll say this is speak, but I believe it's, the speech of God, talks with his hands, and looky would none protest, and wouldn't protest, wouldn't mind it, from the middle to cantum, the middle of the yoke, and desire is, and would like it, the extender, the digitum, and says, the meaning of would none protest, would not fight it. So it appears that is what this is saying here. And in the Greek, and tote of bows, and of a carry as his accused days of, It'll alone to see of. Here they, a hand of, the yod of. That's to know in the Hebrew. For Hemi, I believe that's where the middle comes from. Hemi being half. And for Hemi on appeal is oppose of. Ascendism on. Sin is together. They get a conspiracy, more than one. It's two in the Hebrew. A sin, it takes two to sin. And the sinnedism on. And a Sheratonian. They would write that in the Egyptian, with a hand reaching out to share. And it's actually read the share it on, and the IA reads as a W, a share it on when. And a share it on when, where come a gong was of. The angel is spelt with double G. I believe this G following the O before the G reads as an N. A gog would be to lead 'em. And to share it on when, where come a gong was of. And this first G, it possibly reads as an N too, And where coming on jism of. So, to behold, that was the Essie in the Latin. And it's the yod of, that's the hand over, I know, in the Hebrew. But it's the yod, the hand of, for Hemi, for half on, a fillas oppose of, ascendism on, and share it on when. Sharon is the girl who gives it up, a Sharon, and a share it on when. Where coming on a jism of. So let's look at it in the Hebrew. I think the Hebrew is easiest to read. And they interpret this as, then you shall call and Yahweh will answer. You shall cry and he will say, here I, if you take away from the mist, the middle, the mist, the yoke, the pointing of finger and speaking wickedness. And this is really short and sweet. This is AZ, and the H is given, has. And has it for of you high. A high of. The N followed by the E reads the B. High on. A high of its, and vow, V-O, the vow emmer, and has it for of you high of its vow, a renin, the N followed by the N-I reads as a N-I-N instead of N-N-I, the second consonant reads the I, and the I following a double consonant reads as the last consonant. And has it for of you high of its vow. High of its vow. Your vow may be marriage, or your vow may be to the priesthood or to the kingship. And high of its vow renin. Renin is where children come from. Renin is the Egyptian sign. Renin, it's where rent and friend and everything like that comes from. It has to do with family, the Ren. And this image here gives a lot better idea of what it means, the rent up, to give it up. They say that's a set of horns, but that's a set of legs, and that's him renting on it. Symbol of the New Year festival, when everybody has a big orgy and they're up that ass. Has for of you high of its vow, renenum, a wrist, it's backwards, RIST, A renenum ristizer. A wrist is the gay man. A renenum ristizer matuki. From took. And the double K, reading as a I-M. From took 'em with. Assail it's vowed of her. And then the N, vav, A reads as a T-E. Assail it's vowed. Avowed in rent. R-N-T-E. In rent when. When the rent's due, R-N-T, is when you get rend. Time to pay the rent. Has it four of you high of its vow? Renenum wrist is from took 'em with a sail. It's vowed in rent when. So if you put somebody in a yoke, it's a whole lot easier, from took 'em with a sail. They're in a yoke and they're just going to follow wherever you lead them. That was the Gog in the Greek. And Rama-gogism of. A gagism of. And Rama, that's Amar backwards. And sometimes they'll say it means to speak or the word. And that's where it comes from, the Hebrew word backwards. But in Rama is to see into. And so this work I did today, it gives me a clue that the word Amr in the Hebrew is more of a visual word than a spoken word, something that you see. The base word, the Amr, for he will say, and it's the Vomer, the plow. But all these words, they're none of them's words. It's all just groups of letters, and they go together many different ways. And has it four of you high of its vow? Renenum ristism took 'em with. A sail it's in, bottom at the sail. A sail it's vowed in rent when. And at the end of the year, when it comes time, the rent's due, it's time you get took. From took 'em with is sail, it's vowed in rent when. So the Greek in no way is an interpretation of the Hebrew. The Greek is censorship of the Hebrew. And same as the Latin. There's just things that they couldn't say. So it had to be rewritten to censor these things. And I'll leave the link to this book here. It's called Chirologia. And written in 1644. And you could buy your copy at his print shop at St. Paul's Churchyard. But this is free here in these archives. And I'll leave the link below in that first comment. And I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.